Hello lovely people, I have pulled out a couple of products here that I would consider my fall favorites, but honestly this is all for me to show you again the Melt Cosmetics Rust palette, because I think finally it is the time of the year to play with this eyeshadow palette. I have no fucking clue why they released this palette in May, when honestly September would have been the absolute most perfect time for it. But we're going to do a look centered around this palette and then pull out a couple of other products that may not necessarily be things that I only ever use in the fall, but let's call them my fall favorites so that we have a nice theme around this makeup look. So the first thing I'm going to do is apply my foundation, because I still haven't done that. This is not my fall favorite foundation, but it is one of my favorite foundations. This is the Double Wear Light Foundation from Lauder, which they changed the formula of this foundation, and I still have an old tub of it that I had been saving for the longest time. But as of recently I decided that it is time to just use it up before it actually goes bad. And since I have found actually products that I would consider just as good as this foundation, I don't feel so bad about using it up. There was a time when I hadn't found a foundation that I enjoy as much as this one, and I didn't want to use it up because I was afraid that I will end up never having a foundation that I can rely on should I have the need for that. But I found foundations that I enjoy really a lot in the meantime, including the... what is this again? The Lauder Double Wear Nude Foundation, which is the lighter version of the light foundation, if that makes sense to you. It's like a more liquid, very sheer to medium coverage. The Double Wear Light Foundation was more on the medium buildable coverage to me. It's definitely not the light coverage foundation, although you can obviously sheer it out. You don't have to apply it as a mask. And what I really enjoy about the light foundation is that it just sits very naturally on the skin, and it ages very well throughout the day. For me, all the Lauder foundations that I have tried from the Double Wear line always really age well during the day, even if they look a little bit drier in the beginning of the day. For instance, the original Double Wear foundations, as much as I like that foundation, I have to go very light-handed and it still tends to look a little bit dry on my skin. This is definitely not a fall favorite, it's just a product that I'm trying to use up. This is the Pat McGrath Labs Skin Fetish... what is this? Skin Fetish Sublime Perfecting Setting Powder, which I am trying to use more lately because I really just want to use it up. And I applied a light dusting of that around here, my nose and immediate cheek area where I have more pores, and my forehead where I tend to get a bit more oily during the day. I don't know about you, but for me the coming of fall is a little bit like a Sunday evening when you are feeling a little bit melancholic because the weekend is over and you're about to start the new week, which always feels very overwhelming. For me that's how fall feels like. It's a bit melancholic and sad because I don't want to let go of the summer, but it's a little less sad than a Sunday evening because there are actually things about fall that I really enjoy. I enjoy the foliage, that cozy romantic feeling in the evenings when you can light your candles and it's nice and gloomy and stormy outside and you're on your couch snuggled up with a blankie watching a horror movie in preparation for Halloween. We are definitely looking forward to... okay, let me stop the rambling for a second. I'm going to go into the Rust palette now. I want to do something maybe a little bit lighter. I want to definitely go in here. This color is probably what I would consider my favorite eyeshadow in this eyeshadow palette, although I really love this one as well, and this one, and this one. Okay, I really love this palette. As much as I did not enjoy the Millennial Pinks palette, which by the way is with Alice now, and I'm hoping she does a video on it and she tests it out together with you so that we can see how she enjoys that palette. Anywho, so like I said, I'm going to stick a little bit more towards this corner. I don't want to make it overly dark, but I think I want to pop maybe this one on my outer corners just to see whether I can blend it out, because it's a shimmer shade, but hopefully it blends out well in the crease. I'm going to grab the orange shade first, the Pumpkin Orange, which is one of my absolute favorite shades in this palette. It has such a beautiful, unique undertone to it. So, horror movies. I don't know about you, but I'm a huge fan of horror. I'm a huge fan of it, and at the same time I hate it because I do legit get like spooked out by shit and I can't sleep after that, and I definitely cannot sleep if I'm by myself. So every time my husband and I are about to watch a scary movie or a scary show, I'm like, just so you know, you're not allowed to go anywhere for the next like 6 months or so. What was I going to say? What am I looking forward to? Yes, I am looking forward to the sequel of The Haunting of Hill House. I don't know if you guys watched it. It was on Netflix, I want to say 2 years ago. It was the year when Nicola was born, so 2018, and we really enjoyed it. It was one of those shows which made you wonder half of the time, is someone in the family suffering from mental disease, or is it really like supernatural? I really love these kind of stories which make you wonder. Grabbing the next shade, by the way, the shade Rubbish. On the same note, the same guy who made The Haunting of Hill House also made a movie, the title of which I can never remember, but it's something about a little boy whose like dreams come true. So you can have like his beautiful, like full of rainbows and unicorns dreams, but you can also have the nightmares and they all come to life. I have not dared to watch that movie yet, but I think maybe this Halloween or this October will finally be the time. What are your favorite types of horror movies to watch? My favorite types of horror movies to watch are the ones that are like suggestive, psychological, supernatural sort of things. Like, I don't like gory type of things. I don't find gore to be particularly scary, but when you have this like suggestive like sounds or like little images here and there, that's so much spookier to me. Like something like the original Blair Witch Project. Oh yeah, baby, this is exactly the type of horror that I really enjoy. Who here is old enough to remember when the Blair Witch Project was in the theaters? Because I do. I was in high school and I went to watch that movie with a couple of my classmates, all boys by the way. For some reason I made really good friendships with boys at high school. I had a few good girlfriends as well, but like I really made good friendships with boys. It was not romantic in any sort of way, it was really just friendships. Anywho, so I remember watching that movie with them, and let's not forget, it was the 90s. So there was no way for us to know whether, because, you know, when the movie came out, there was this whole, like, rumor circulating that the footage was real footage. If you see the movie, it does look like something that someone just, like, stitched together out of super amateur movies. And back then, there was no internet, you couldn't really look up a lot of information about the movie, and of course they wanted the rumor to circulate because they wanted it to sound as if it's true. So when I went to the movies, I legit thought, maybe this really happened, maybe this is actual footage of what happened in that forest, which made the movie so much spookier. Does anyone remember that? Oh, I just think these two shades work so beautifully together, the shades Rubbish and Erode. Love them. So, to go back to The Haunting of Hill House, I don't recall how the new series is going to be called. It's The Haunting of whatever, some other name of another house, but I'm really excited for that because The Haunting of Hill House was really well made, and there were like so many like hidden things in there that you had to like go and either rewatch or find someone on YouTube who already rewatched it and can show you all the hidden images. Anywho, let's move on to the next part of our look. I'm going to take this shade and try to apply it in my outer corners a little bit, and then on my lid I want to mainly focus on this shade because it is such a stunning shadow. Such a stunning shadow. Love it. So tell me, what are your favorite like scary horror movies, shows, TV series, or do you not like watching that shit at all? I know people who really don't watch horror movies at all because they really just can't take it. When I was growing up, and actually maybe to this day, one of my favorite horror movies of all times I tell you, is the Exorcism of Emily Rose. It's a movie from, I don't know, early 2000s or something. I don't think it's late 90s, it was more like early 2000s, and I don't recognize myself even saying that, but I was actually alone at home in my room in the dark watching that movie. I don't know what possessed me to watch it like that. Possessed? See what I did there? Anywho, so I really enjoyed that movie. Spoilers for those of you who haven't seen it, I'm sorry, I just want to talk about it. But it's a story about this girl who they thought was possessed, and it's based on a true story, by the way. It's based on the story of a girl in Germany who was supposedly possessed, and they tried to exorcise her. It's a sad story, she died in the end. But what I really loved about this movie is that the first time I watched it, I was like convinced that she was possessed. I was like, yeah, for sure she was possessed, what a scary story. And then years later, I rewatched the movie with one of my friends here during my PhD, and I was like, oh my god, it's like I saw this movie with completely different eyes, because the way they set up the story and the way they tell the story, they kind of leave you wondering if she wasn't really suffering from some sort of a mental illness and she wasn't treated properly. So the second time around, I was like much less convinced that she was possessed, and I much more had the feeling that maybe we were talking about someone who was suffering from mental illness and wasn't diagnosed and treated properly. So I thought that was a really interesting experience. I really love that movie. It's scary, it makes you think. It's one of those movies which leaves you to wonder and kind of lets you choose your own side depending on what you believe, what you want to believe in. But I think it was really well done. I'm going to apply a little bit of my glitter glue, by the way. This is Pixie Epoxy on my lids. I hadn't actually watched the original Exorcist movie until very late in my life. I think my husband was the first person to introduce me to that movie. And let me tell you, this movie stands the test of time. Even though it was made in the 70s, I still think it's such a scary movie. I'm going to grab this shade and put it all over my lid because she is so gorgeous. Oh, so pretty. I just think the shadows in this eyeshadow palette just work so well together. Like the textures, the colors, the undertones, everything just works so well together. There's really no shade in the Rust palette that goes well as an inner corner highlight for me, so I'm going to pull out my Cliona Cosmetics highlighters, and I'm going to take this shade here, which has a very strong golden undertone to it. I don't actually ever use it as a highlighter, it's just too stark for that for me, but it works gorgeous as an inner corner highlight with a bunch of looks from the Rust palette and actually the Bronze palette from Natasha Denona. Now, to your absolute horror, I'm actually going to put out one of my Pat McGrath eyeshadow quads, the quad in Iconic Illumination, because it is one of my favorite products to use in the fall and the winter. And I'm going to take the gorgeous topper shade here and apply the tiniest bit of that sparkle over top of the gold shade from the Melt palette, because I feel like the two would mix really nicely. And I'm just going to use my finger and apply the tiniest layer of those sparkles. On my lower lash line, I'm actually going to take this look in a slightly warmer and bronzier direction. I'm going to apply this Kiko eyeshadow stick in my waterline, and then over top of that, and blend it out on my lower lash line, I am going to take this beautiful shade here, the shade Mar, which is a very red toned brown, and just use that as my lower lash line shade, just to bring a bit more warmth into the look. Not that the look is cool toned now, but I feel like this will give it a little bit of those beautiful warm brown fall tones. Alright, eyes are done, let's move on to the face. I'm going to take not necessarily a fall favorite, but definitely a recent favorite. I actually demoed this in one of my Pat McGrath ranking videos. This is the Milk Makeup in the shade Baked, which is the lighter shade. It is like an all-year appropriate bronzer, but I've been really enjoying it lately. Let's say it's my favorite bronzer this fall. So guys, so first of all, do you like scary movies? And if you do, what are the types of movies that scare you the most? I don't know why I get so scared from like all of these like possession, evil spirit type of movies, because frankly, as someone who is an atheist, I don't really believe in God or any of these things. For blush, I'm definitely taking a blush that I prefer to use more towards like the fall and winter months. It is an oldie but goodie. It is the Becca blush in the shade Wild Honey. Back when Jacqueline was still popular, she recommended that blush and I bought her off of her recommendation. Not that Jacqueline isn't popular anymore, but I don't care for Jacqueline anymore, so Anywho, this is a beautiful blush. It's almost like a bronzer slash blush, but I do really like those like warm cinnamon honey tones that it has. It's very similar to Warm Honey from Cover FX, but the Cover FX blush I feel like has more like reddish pink undertones to it compared to this one. This one leans a little bit more bronzy in tone. I think on some people this is definitely going to look wonderful as like a blush slash bronzer. And for my highlighter, I am going to take this gorgeous shade from MAC. This is the shade Whisper of Guilt. Is it? Yes, it is. This is the Extra Dimension Skin Finish in the shade Whisper of Guilt, one of the classic MAC highlighters. This is actually the only like truly golden, like champagne golden highlighter that I have in my collection. But this Extra Dimension Skin Finish from MAC, fabulous. Highly recommend everything for that from that line. The blushes, the highlighters, the bronzers, everything is beautiful. Last step, I'm going to spritz my sponge here with a little bit of Fix Plus and just melt those powder products onto my face so that they look more natural on the skin. And last but not least, for lips, I'm going to be applying this NARS Audacious lipstick in the shade Deborah, which is the perfect color for fall. It's a beautiful, warm-toned brown shade. I would recommend highly to use with a lip primer underneath. I'm using the MAC lip primer because personally on me, this formula tends to fade rather quickly towards the center of the lips during the day. I'm going to line my lips. And this, you guys, is the final look. I really think that the Rust palette and this lipstick from NARS are a match made in heaven. I absolutely love them. I highly recommend the Rust palette if you enjoy these kind of tones, because it's definitely one of my favorite palettes that I have bought this year. The last fall favorite that I wanted to mention to you is actually a perfume. This is the Lancome Laveabell L'Eclat perfume, and I am going to read off Fragrantica what the notes of this perfume are, so that you get a better idea of what it smells like. So the top notes are bergamot, mandarin, orange and freesia. Middle notes are orange blossom, white flowers, jasmine and iris, and the base notes, which are my favorite and they come through at the end of the day in the evening when I'm laying on the couch, are sandalwood, vanilla and patchouli. Absolutely delightful. To me, fall scents just need to smell like sandalwood and vanilla, that's it. Give me sandalwood and vanilla and I'd be happy any day of the fall and winter. I'm going to head off to work, you guys. Thank you so much for hanging out. Don't forget to let me know what kind of things scare you in movies and TV shows. If you like that kind of thing at all, what are your favorite horror TV shows and movies? Let's talk spooky things. Thanks so much for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe if you'd like to see more of my face, and I'll see you in my next video. Bye!